Was or is my best friend. I hate to say was just because it's hard to accept this. So I want to keep on living as if she's still by my side. Yusur kept me strong through so many things. She was always helpful. She gave me and all of our friends a lot of advice and support. She encouraged us, and she was an inspiration. She was an inspiration to me. Her father is an inspiration to me. I actually want to follow his career path. Ever since I was little, I was determined to become like him. I loved his job. I loved what he does. And he also encouraged me to do that as well. And we've been in school together all of our life. Since 3rd grade, I met her when she moved to Raleigh from Clinton, North Carolina. And we were just inseparable since. We went to the same elementary school, middle school, high school, and university. So,
And you saw her sister Razan, 19 years old, her little sister.
Yes, Razan. So Razan, since I was best friends with Yusur, of course, Razan was always with us growing up. She was always playing with us. She may not have had the best roles in all of our games, but she was included. She was lucky that she was included because we were older. So we'd kind of, try to boss her around a little as much as we could, or as much as she would let us. But then when she grew up, she was smarter than us, so it didn't work anymore. Razan is, she's so kind and loving, and she's just really cute. Like, there's just something about her that's just adorable. Like, she kind of makes your heart melt a little bit. She loved Yusur so much. And yesterday, when we were at their parents' home, I was thinking to myself, we're standing in the kitchen, and we've been there so many times, and it brings back so many memories. Like, I can see Razan sitting at the end of the table, and she also always used to sit kind of at the head of the table. And I can always just see her always studying. She was always reading. She has this huge library in her room. Like, you wouldn't believe how many books this girl reads. And she's just a very smart young girl that had just an amazing mind. Her thought process was amazing. She loved her family so much. She loved Yusur a lot. And I just can't imagine if Yusur was to leave this world and Razan didn't. I don't think Razan would have been able to survive without her sister, because they were so connected together. So I'm kind of looking at it, last night I was thinking about it, it is kind of a blessing that they happened to pass all together, because they all needed each other so much. And I don't think Razan would have been able to do it without her, and vice versa.
I'd like to talk to Professor Omid Safi as well about what's occurred. Professor Safi, could you explain to us what your response to the way in which the media has been covering these tragic deaths?
Thank you, Nermeen. Thank you, Amy. It's obviously a very heavy time for all of us here in North Carolina and in the country. I think the initial response of the community here has been to ask the media focus to be on the lives of these 3 beautiful, young, idealistic, passionate people, these 3 young Muslims who connected the suffering here in America to the suffering around the world, who work in the inner cities of North Carolina, as well as working with Syrian refugees in Turkey, working with Palestinians and others, rather than simply keeping the focus on this vile murderer and the horrific act of an execution-style murder. And then the other aspect that we have seen has been the request of the family and indeed the Muslim community here to fully consider this as a possible hate crime. When you see a man breaking in with a gun, having threatened 3 people repeatedly over a course of weeks, and then shoot them in the head, as I mentioned, in an execution style, we've simply found it unbelievable that the police force would have initially dismissed this as a possible hate crime, or at least removed that possibility, minimized that possibility. And so I think the other aspect that the community here is wholeheartedly asking for is for this to be investigated as a serious hate crime.
I want to turn to Dia Barakat in his own words. Along with his friend Ali Haidari, Barakat had started a fundraising campaign to raise money for a trip they were planning to Turkey this summer to provide dental care to Syrian refugees. This is a clip.
My name is Dia Barakat. I'm a dental student at UNC, and I need your help. Have you ever felt helpless about the situation in Syria and felt like you can't do anything about it? Well, this is your opportunity to help. This summer, I'm embarking on a trip to Turkey with 10 dentists to help Syrian refugee students in need of urgent dental care. These kids don't have access to the same health care as us, and their prolonged pain can easily be taken care of with the work that we do. But we need the proper funding. So let's relieve their pain. If you want to make a difference in the life of a child most in need, then I urge you to take advantage of this opportunity.
Dia Barakat's campaign had originally set a goal of raising $20,000. It's now raised nearly $200,000, mostly raised since news of the killings broke. So, Professor Safi, could you talk about some of the work that Dia was involved in, both here in the United States, the social justice and humanitarian work here and abroad, as well as Razan and Yusor?
Absolutely. So the very last Facebook message that most of us saw from Dia, and these people are really the pillars of the community here. They're the absolute role models for what it means to live an engaged, faithful life in the public space. And the last time that we all saw Dia in the social media context was he was talking about leading a campaign to provide free dental care for inner city, primarily African-American community in Durham, and to hand out free food. And this was just a short while after he had gotten married. And, you know, this is the kind of person that he was, open-hearted, always with a smile, starting his action here at home, but then also with an eye towards suffering halfway around the world. And this is what we ask of the best of our young people, is to connect the suffering here at home to the suffering globally, because we want them to always be mindful of the fact that our humanity mingles together. As far as the other ones, Yusor had also done very similar dental relief work in Turkey in the city of Kilis, and in fact she was about to start at the UNC Dental School in August. And Razan, this extraordinary bundle of goodwill and brilliant young woman, was already recognized for her work in 3D design. So an Arab Muslim woman, a hijab-wearing woman who's breaking ground in a very male-dominated world of engineering. And the way that she had chosen to respond to the horrific Paris shootings and the pornographic cartoons mocking the Prophet was not by simply engaging the cartoonists at their own level, but she was the artistic visionary and genius behind a project that's called Optimism is a Lost Sunnah. Sunnah meaning the pattern of the Prophet, the example of the Prophet. Optimism. I mean, this is what these folks stood for. This is how they had been raised to live their life. And one reason that a lot of us are mourning is that a few minutes of hateful violence, in a sense, have deprived all of us of decades of benefiting from the loving service of these beautiful young people.
This is Karen Hicks, the suspect's wife, who held a news conference Wednesday in an attempt to refute claims her husband was motivated by religious bigotry.
I can say with my absolute belief that this incident had nothing to do with religion or victims' faith, but in fact was related to the long-standing parking disputes that my husband had with the neighbors.
And I also want to turn to the lawyer for the suspect. Her attorney, Rob Maitland, also addressed reporters and suggested the suspect had a history of mental health problems.
Personal opinion is that this highlights the importance of access to mental health care services and us removing in our society the stigma for people to ask for that type of help when they need it.
That's Craig Stephen Hicks attorney Rob Maitland. Professor Safi, your response.
I have a couple of responses. One of them is I find it intriguing that whenever we have a white person engaging in horrific acts of violence, the immediate response is to say they're a lone ranger, they're disturbed, they're marginalized, and possibly they suffer from mental illness. When we have people from a Muslim background who are coming, all of a sudden the conversation shifts to a culture of death and an ideology that somehow produces this. And then there's an expectation of a communal apology on behalf of it. Also on behalf of people who deeply care about issues of mental illness, I think it's really important to say that while we do need extraordinary commitment to mental health here in North Carolina, where many of the institutions have in fact been shut down under Republican administration, the association between mental illness and violence is simply something that is not bore out by the facts on the ground. And the second thing that I would say that came out of that really unacceptable presentation yesterday that you just alluded to is that the same lawyer also said that the 3 victims were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were in their own home. Since when is being in one's own house being in the wrong place? Where are we supposed to be?
And before we conclude, I'd like to ask Amira Atta, you wrote in your piece, "My best friend was killed and I don't know why." You spoke about an incident in the fall when you were at Yusor's house, and the neighbor who is now the suspect in this killing, in fact, who turned himself in, came and complained about the level of noise that there was in that apartment. Could you talk about that incident? What happened that night last fall?
Yes. We were invited over to Yusor and Ziad's house for dinner. Ziad had made us dinner. We went over there, and this was in the engagement period. We were still, getting to know him and that type of stuff. And after dinner, we were playing a game. It's called Risk. I'm not sure if everybody knows about it, but it's a game that you basically conquer the world. And so we were getting a little competitive, but we weren't that loud. And the house is where we were sitting in the living room. There's still another bedroom on one side and another bedroom on the other side. So there's plenty of walls that are surrounded around us. Soon after we left, Yusor contacted us and she told us, did my neighbor say anything to you guys when you guys left out? And we were like, no, we just left. We didn't see anybody. And she said, oh, my neighbor came to my doorstep and he was holding a gun and was telling me that we were too loud and we woke up his wife. We told her, all of us that were there, it was 4 of us, we told her, call the police, tell them what happened. And she was debating whether she should or she shouldn't, because she was like, he didn't really do anything. I don't know if I should make this a big deal. I'm not really sure what to do, that type of thing. And, and she was so nice to him. She was just explaining to him, we weren't that loud, but I'm sorry. If we were loud, I apologize for that. And I don't know, it was just a weird situation. So on Tuesday, as we're getting all of the phone calls and hearing all of the gossip and everybody's telling us, get to Chapel Hill, we had no idea what was going on. As I'm driving down there, I'm thinking I thought only Ziad was dead, honestly. I didn't think Yusor had died, and I didn't know Razan was involved. Driving there, I was like, if Ziad was shot, the neighbor had to do it. I knew automatically, because I thought immediately, who would do something like this to them? It was their neighbor. She complains about him to her parents. I don't know how many times he's threatened her. Her dad knows more, but she wasn't comfortable staying there. And she used to always try to convince, one of us, if we finished class at State, to come to Chapel Hill and spend time with her so she wouldn't be alone all the time. So I'm not really sure if that was just a fear or she didn't want to be alone. But, she knew that it wasn't really safe there with that neighbor that tends to come to her house holding a gun. If I had a problem with my neighbor, I might write a letter, put it on their doorstep or on their car. but I wouldn't go to my neighbor holding a gun.
Did she say did she feel that he felt anger or hatred towards them because they were Muslim?
Yes, of course. She was saying because they were different, she felt that she was hated. And she didn't know why, because she's such a sweet and calm person. She didn't understand why anyone, wouldn't like her. So it didn't make sense to her. And we told her it's probably because you wear a scarf, you wear a hijab, and you are a Muslim. So some people are, ignorant, and they are going to not like you because of what you represent, because people think that Islam is a bad thing. But I mean, not all Muslims are bad Muslims.